This is G Brands. I'm Andy Rowan. As usual, I'm joined by All Blacks legend Justin Marshall and World Cup winning Wallaby champ Jeremy Paul. On the show today, the All Blacks and Wallabies get their season underway. The Lions cry foul over wet grass. Where in the world is James O'Connor? We find out why he hasn't been on the show lately, and we look ahead to another epic week of rugby. A big thanks to HSBC Australia for supporting the pod and the game we love with their everyday global account. We've got one card that lets us spend like a local no matter where the rugby takes us, home or away. Marshy. Where do we start? Oh, first of all, actually, JP, thanks for coming over. Thanks for making the trip over from Australia, mate. It's good to see you, as always.
Always, mate. Someone's got to be Marshy's bodyguard. Like he's...
I think you'd be too scared to get on a flight.
Mate, are you kidding me, mate? No, let's double down. Let's go down. Like I've got a theory about French rugby.
Hang on. Let's just give some context, okay? So Marshy's said that he's sick of French rugby disrespecting the global window, right? The international window.
Yeah, I think we've got to probably, I guess, make people aware of what I actually said.
Yeah.
Because there's quite a few keyboard warriors out there, predominantly being French, that have misinterpreted it and probably haven't listened to the full spiel. They've just gone for the sensationalised grabs of it. And that's the annoying thing, because they actually haven't listened to what I was trying to say, which is for a very long period of time, the French are disrespecting the international window. They are not bringing their best players on tours, which is not respectful for our country, because we want to see their best players playing here. But because they overemphasise their club situation over there and the players play too many minutes, which I don't disagree with, they say, because they all come out and go, our players have just played a final, we've played too many minutes. Yeah, sure. That's because you've got your window for the entire calendar year out of kilter, because you now don't have the ability to let those international players play international rugby because you're not resting them at the right times of the year. So you're disrespecting the window that everybody else buys into. Everybody else in the world does not send B teams out. They send their top players to their tours. And that's where the interpretation has gone, well, people, the keyboard warriors out there have said that I was disrespecting the team that's here, which is a load of bullshit. I was disrespecting the fact that France haven't recognised the international window and we have to play a B team. And that's the difference between what I said. There's no doubt, and what I did say as well, to put it into context, is I don't disagree that the French team will give us a contest and that they will be up for it and they'll be competitive. Who wouldn't be? I categorically said that. But what I did say was, it is a real goddamn shame for our people, our country, that we are not seeing your superstars here playing because you have got your minutes for your world-class players out of kilter in your system. So that's clarified now, yeah? And the other thing is, just to throw a little, I don't know, a little bit more spice into it, we could do the same if we wanted to.
Yeah.
We could actually go, righto, okay, our players actually have heavy workloads as well. Not as heavy as yours, but heavy enough. And we play a rugby championship before we come, with lots of travel involved, before we come to see you in November. We could send a B team.
Easily.
And that B team would be competitive, probably not win, but would give you a decent contest, but you would not get to see our top All Blacks. You would get to see 3, 4, 5 of them, and then you would see our second-tier players that are on the fringe of being All Blacks. And how would you feel about that when you go to Parc des Princes and there's 85,000 of you and you're paying €200 for your tickets and you're taking your kids along, but you don't get to see Bowden Barrett and Will Jordan, you know, Scott Barrett. Yeah. You don't get to see those players because we leave them here in New Zealand because they've had too many minutes.
Yeah, look.
How would you feel?
Mate, I'm going to double down here too on this as well. I think French rugby have got it all wrong. I think they've got it all wrong. So I dived into, because one of my many nicknames was also Rain Man, right? Like, so.
You can't keep giving yourself nicknames.
Mick the Merciless called himself Rain Man.
Not only is he big and strong, he's extremely intelligent.
No. Qantas never crashes. But no. I was always good with numbers and not words, right? Like, so I can't believe I'm telling you this story, but anyway, very quickly, why I was called Rain Man. Like, because I used to stuff
Where
up
you
with...
called it, or did you call
No,
yourself
no,
it?
the boys used to call me this because whenever we would
What
go...
boys?
No, when we would go for
His
dinner...
kids at home.
When we go on tour, go for dinner, they'd go, Ming, here's the bill, divvy it up, boom, I'll do it in 2 seconds. Anyway, one night we're at Codfather in South Africa. I was 22.
What a spot, Cape
what a
Town.
spot! What a spot! I was 22 years old. I used to say dumb shit all the time. Anyway, we're eating, and I turn around to the boys and I go, oh, "How good's this elephant tuna?" And they go, "What?" Griggs turns to me and goes, "What? What did you just say?" I said, "Elephant tuna. Like it's so big. Like that's what the." He said, "No, mate, it's yellowfin tuna." And I was like, "Oh." So the boys obviously then jumped on that for a very, very long time. And I used to say dumb shit like that all the time. But anyway, Rain Man, go back to France. So I went and did the numbers and looked at all the research. Like they've only won 4 times in New Zealand, right? 94, 96 and 2009. In 94, when the French team came down, played their best side, they then went to the World Cup in 95 and only lost to South Africa 19-15 in the semi-final and actually had the top point scorer of the 95 World Cup. In 96, when they came down and won 2 games, right? They then went on and won 97-98 Grand Slam and obviously made the 99 Rugby World Cup final. In 2009, when they came down and won a game, their last game that the French had won in New Zealand, 8 of those players then played in the 2011 Rugby World Cup final. What I'm saying is France will never win a Rugby World Cup unless you start having your best players playing big fucking games. You have to. Like, if you ask the top 23 players in France right now, where would you like to win? In France at home or at Eden Park? I'm telling you now, 23 players will turn around and go, Eden Park. Like, it's not only the nostalgia and how amazing it would be to win in New Zealand, but it's playing in tough games. I would always recognise where I was at, myself personally, as well as a team, if we won in New Zealand. If we won a test match in New Zealand. You've got their best players in France not playing, not touring. And that's the other part too, man, about building camaraderie, cohesion. Touring.
Getting tight
Like
on tour.
Mate, and having the time of your life as a side, right? Like the things you go away outside of rugby. So French rugby, you've got it all wrong. Like I think you've got this completely backwards. Yeah, you might send your B side and looking for that depth. We all want depth.
Yeah.
But I believe you've got it wrong where you need your best players to be playing in the top games.
Oh, mate.
Otherwise, you're not going to win anything. Oh, you're not going to win a Rugby World Cup. There you go. France will never win.
Yeah, what we want in the world, the number one jersey that you put on is the jersey that you play for your country in.
Correct.
Full stop.
Correct.
It's why we pick up a rugby ball.
But they're
owned
owned though, right?
It's
They're
why
owned
we.
by
Yeah,
their
it's why we
clubs.
play. It's why we play as players.
Correct.
To play for our country, and that's the ultimate in the game, and that's what should be the most important period in their calendar. So my argument is not. I don't disagree with you, and I do take on board that they are playing too many minutes and that their players are tired. Take the minutes out of the club comp.
Correct.
Or find a
players.
window. Yeah, find a window where all the clubs agree where the top players are going to get rested, so that when it comes time for them to get picked for France, Fabien Gaultier can pick the best players in the country, and the rest of the world, including us here in New Zealand, get to see their best players playing us out here.
100%.
That's where they have to resolve it. I'm not
100%.
arguing that they play too many minutes. I'm not arguing they just played in a final. What I'm saying to you is you're not respecting the window, because what you're doing is working those players so hard that they can't put on their national jersey. They can't play for France. And the world is missing out on that. Number 4 team in the world has been number 1 in recent years. And we don't get to see them here in New Zealand. When's the next time we'll see them? You know, when will we ever see those?
No, but we won't. No, we won't. We'll never. The way that they have structured their end of season tours is purely for development.
Marshy, what did you make of the French team on the weekend?
I thought they played exactly as you'd expect them to. You know, they were competitive. They were players that are not usually in the first 15 or even the first 23 that Fabien Gaultier will choose. So they are playing for massive amount of opportunity. You know, like they get their chance to go out and play against the All Blacks in New Zealand and go, hey, I'm capable. And that's the other side of it. Like, those players sitting back in France must be thinking, shit, man, these guys are out there playing in my jersey under our current coach. And now that's going to put me under pressure, because if they play well, then all of a sudden the pressure's on me to retain my jersey. But equally, you know, they are always going to be very smart in the way they play, because Fabien Gaultier is a very clever coach, played in the right areas, and they took all of their opportunities, really. The All Blacks did not take all of their opportunities. They left lots of points out there, and the TMO took quite a few off them as well. But in general, you know, it was an expected performance from the French, but to a degree, I thought the All Blacks allowed them to function within that game because of their own inadequacies in certain areas. But hey, it was a hell of a good test match, entertaining, dramatic, and could have gone either way, to be honest, up until the last couple of minutes of the game.
It is time for this week's Harvey Norman Next Gen Moment of the Week. Harvey Norman has a huge range of next gen AI PCs from the world's top brands: Microsoft, HP, Lenovo, Acer and Asus, all powered by Snapdragon.
Oh, and we're talking speed, aren't we?
We are talking speed.
So my Harvey Norman Next Gen AI speed moment of the weekend was Gabien Villiers, the French winger. And there was a moment in the game where Cam Roygaard took a quick tap. Now, when you're standing out on the wing, it's like, righto, he's not my man. But Cam Roygaard took a quick tap. This is All Blacks versus France. Accelerated through, made a break, and was heading towards the post to the try line, yeah? Now, the left winger, Gabien Villiers, he recognised what was going on. And when you see him in the footage, he is absolutely flying from his wing to get across to that situation. Now, technically, he probably should be holding his width, just to cover if the All Blacks recycle, he's got to defend out there. Instead, his speed got him to the breakdown, and then he got over the ball when the All Blacks are only a metre and a half out, and he turned it over. You see his red cap, and his red cap, well, at least we're talking red, aren't we? Because we're talking Harvey Norman. Was absolutely flying, and he saved the day with incredible speed, and now's to get over the ball. So, yeah, that's my moment of the week.
Just like a Snapdragon-powered PC, clocking in at 45 trillion operations per second, learning how you work and responding in real time. That was your Harvey Norman Next Gen moment. Head into your local Harvey Norman and experience the power of Next Gen AI PCs today. Let's look at some of the individual performances from the weekend. First of all, I want to start at the All Blacks number 13, Billy Proctor. What are we scoring him? How did he go?
Oh, you won't get me scoring him, because I used to fucking hate that when I was a player.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that.
No, you're fine. Like I did though. Like
But no,
did you get that as well?
Yeah, 100%.
Mate, the Sunday papers, because back in the day, that would obviously us being ancient, you know, like there wasn't really internet functionable, especially in the early days. So what you relied on was newspapers. So you wake up on a Sunday morning after a test match, and all the Sunday news, everyone's going to buy the Sunday newspapers, aren't they? To catch up on the game. And on the back page, there it is right there, player ratings for the weekend.
Yes.
And you're like, who's this peanut rating me for a start off? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, how many tests has he played again? And then you're looking down and you see yourself down there as a 4, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. So then everyone in the country thinks you had a 4.
Yeah, great.
And the person that probably thought, no, that guy didn't have a 4, he was at least an 8. So I'm not going to give Billy Proctor a rating, because it used to give me the shits. But yeah, look, I think for Billy Proctor, it was hard for him to get into the game. I think he found out very quickly, because he hasn't played the Northern Hemisphere teams in their blitz style defence before. I think they were stepping in big time, the French, and cutting off. And Fiku is an outstanding defender.
He's a gun.
Oh man, and he was just reading things very, very well. So I think I think he kind of worked out that, you know, you have to be smart. You have to at times take your depth a little bit. So he probably didn't get time and space on the ball as much as would have wanted. Made probably 1 or 2 errors in the game. Didn't have a shit game. But I think he'll be much better from having been out there and knowing what that defence does to you and how you have to adjust as a player when you're not used to it. Because we don't defend like that in Super Rugby. So, look, I think good, solid performance from Billy Proctor.
Didn't
set the world on fire, didn't make breaks. I think they have to keep him there simply because of what's happened now. Because you don't actually talk back 3 anymore, you talk back 4, which is centre out, so centre, 2 wingers, and your fullback, because they kind of function together. With Sevu Reece being out, they're going to have to bring another player in. Possible change, you know, are they going to keep Will Jordan on the wing? Who's going to play fullback? I think they need that consistency at 12, 13 just to stay the same, because they're going to have to muddle around with that back four.
Tupuvai at 6. What do we make of his efforts?
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I know. Well, look, I know that in my mind, I've been very strong in my opinion that I want players playing the jersey that they're most familiar with, you know, and that's important to me, because I feel that when you're in particularly test matches, if you know that jersey really well, you know your movements, you know that, you know, this is when I'm supposed to clean a ruck, this is when I'm supposed to carry, this is when I'm coming in as first or second receiver. You're playing that every week over a whole Super Rugby period. When you go into a test match where you've got less time, less seconds to react, you know, and the intensity and the pressure is so much more that you can just switch into it, because you're not having to change all of those thought processes, which you do. So, look, I certainly feel that he put in a really good performance, as you thought he would. I think the All Blacks were forced to have to move him there, and I know that revolved around the fact that Jacobson was unavailable, Lakai's unavailable, Karifi was going to be playing his first test match, and in the second row, Scott Barrett was carrying a bit of an Achilles. So Tupuvai has played 6 before, and that's where he first started until he moved to lock. So look, his performance was, he scored a try, he did everything that he does usually in the game, didn't look out of place, didn't miss any tackles. So he was strong. His performance was really, really good, and he adapted to that jersey. Yeah. Although I prefer to see him in his usual one.
Yeah, it's a funny one, that, right? Like, because I loved, when I saw the naming of the team, you actually showed me the side, right?
I did, yeah.
And I was like, is this the side? Man, this is a good, everything about it. Like, because for me, I think one of the underrated or underestimated skills is the defensive line out and actually stealing ball, opposition's ball.
Yeah.
And Tupuvai was amazing on the weekend. Like, his pressure. Yeah. Like, I think he only got 1 steal, but he disrupted at least 3 or 4. Like, and that's that ability to be able to get up, put pressure on the hooker. And now with having to throw straight if the defense gets up, right?
Yeah, that's
like,
true, yeah.
It's now leaning more favour towards, and we saw, like, you know, players like Darcy Swain this year for the Western Force actually put his team within the game simply because of defensive line out. So, again, like, I thought he was excellent around the field, made his tackles. But again, it's that balance, right? Like, Artie Severe at 7 was awesome. Like,
he'll ultimately move back there.
I think you'd have to think so, right?
Because like Patrick Tuipulotu's carrying an injury.
Yeah.
Scott Barrett's carrying an injury.
Yeah.
Fabian Holland was obviously in his first test match.
I thought he was good.
Yeah, he was. He was good. In his first so I think it was more just we've got a few issues here, but ultimately I think, you know, his jersey is in the middle, right?
Is in the middle. Yeah,
I agree with you.
What would you like to see improve from the All Blacks?
I think if I thought about the performance over 80 minutes, there's probably 2 areas they need to improve. One's defence. Like, there was instances they opened us up too easily. You know, one when they got on the outside of Billy Proctor. I'm not saying it's Billy Proctor's fault, which led to a try. And then another instance where they just went straight through on the outside shoulder of Artie, and we seem to have plenty of numbers there. Very unlike the All Blacks to concede 2 real easy line breaks like that, and both of those led to tries. You know, so that I would like to think they improve on. And then secondly, I just think we looked a little frantic. Like, we made some line breaks, created a lot of the play, and then when it came down to it, the All Blacks just looked a little panicky at times. It's like, you know what, sometimes just suck it up, seek a bit of contact, rephase again, go into the 13th, 14th, 20th phase if we need to. But they look like they're just overhyped when they made a line break and were trying to get there too quickly. And that's probably sometimes just first test fever of the year, a little bit of rhythm missing. So if they tighten up those 2 areas with the opportunities they created in that game, and then they capitalise on them better than what they did at the weekend, if they improve in that area, I don't think the French are going to improve massively. They're going to deliver exactly the same quality, physicality, kicking, performance, precision, skill set that they did. But they'll improve, no doubt. 20%, we can probably improve 40%. And that might make it a little bit easier for everyone's heart rate on the scoreboard.
JP, let's go to the Wallabies now. You guys got out of jail. Harry Wilson, your great love, got you out of jail at the end there in Newcastle over the Fijians.
What you mean he's great love?
One
He
off.
can't have Su'ali'i, Fraser McWright, and Harry Wilson.
I can have
Like,
as
this
many
guy's-
man crushes as I want, mate. Like, leave me alone.
To be fair, before you answer, Harry Wilson, I thought to me was probably the best Wallaby out there. Mate, he
Outstanding.
played well, man. And some of those, like, they've got that little pattern where they're bouncing back to him, back on the punch, or he's the distributor,
Yep.
really playing into his wheelhouse. I thought he
Yeah,
was very
and
good.
his little combination with Fraser McWright too, best 7 in the world. I love the way those two like are always close to each other. But yes, 12 months ago, Australia would have lost that.
100%.
12 months ago. Look, when we look at progression and we look at improvement, you have to. The only way you can compare is where we were in last year's first test, right? Like if we were under that type of pressure, like that whole second half from the 44th minute through to the 73rd minute, like 29 minutes, no play by the Wallabies. God, take your hats off to the Fijians. God, they were in the fight the entire time. They're broken play. You give them a sniff, and there's the James O'Connor snap your ankles like that, like the way that they can counter, right? Because one thing the Wallabies are going to be very happy with is their territorial advantage, as well as they dominated that part of the game. Like the Fijians actually didn't get in the 22. Like they weren't building pressure and attacking in our red zone as such. All their points came from broken play. I think that's number one. I think number two, I think one thing that I think they'd be incredibly happy with was the work rate of the new guys like Harry Potter. Oh my God. Like, wow. Wow. Having our wingers just stepped up. I was surprised too with Max Jorgensen's.
Why?
Well, because he hadn't played for 14 weeks. I thought other players had sort of stepped up, like Dungunu, who was on the bench. I thought he deserved. They
Corey
released.
Toole?
Well, yes, Corey Toole. Like, God, wouldn't you love to see that pace? Like, you just can't replicate pure speed, can you? Look, defensively, he's been poor over the last couple of years, but I thought this year. Yeah, look, his one-on-one defense. And look, you got to hit and stick. Like, as a winger, like particularly in that kick chase, right? And that's actually one thing that I thought the Wallabies were incredibly poor on, was hit and stick. Like we saw Joseph
What do you mean, hit and
Suaalii.
stick?
Well, hit and stick in defence.
You got
Like, you got to make that first up tackle.
Hold on, you know.
Yeah,
like,
you gotta make
there's
that-
no point in banging your shoulders on,
Right.
hitting a guy, you jolt him backwards or whatever, but you don't wrap.
Hit the player and
If
stick to
you
the
got to
player.
hit and stick,
Yeah.
like what we saw a lot of is that first up tackler missing that tackle, like, and not sticking. Like, that's the first thing to stop the rot. Like, we used to call it stop the rot, right? Like, you just got to hit and stick and connect in defense. And then you've got to win that territorial battle. Like, that's where you've just got to, like, get out of your own half, and you've got to put pressure back on them to play out of their own half. And the Wallabies didn't do that in the second half. But look, overall, first test match of the season, to win it in the 78th or 79th minute, mate, a win's a win. Like, in confidence-wise, they'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, a lot of errors, man. Like, and I'm talking basic errors. You know, more from the Fijians, like but just handling ones. And like, I was like, well, you know, these are simplistic basic errors where guys are just dropping the ball, knocking it on, fumbling it. Look, I get it, particularly for the Wallabies. You know, like, at the end of the day, they're fighting for a test spot to play the Lions, aren't they? Do you think that's just a little bit of what the All Blacks experience? Just a little bit of over ambition, franticness, you know, like a normal catch and pass that you expect them to hold on to. Maybe they're just a little overplaying their hand, or
Mate, 100%. Look, we saw it with the Lions' first game against Argentina.
True. Good point.
I said
Yeah.
that same thing. I said it's those 50-50. Like, you're almost in front of a coach and you're trying to put your best hand forward, right? And go, like, look at me. And something in your head, right? Like, particularly under extreme fatigue, you throw that, like Harry Wilson. And I think it was like the first 3 or 4 minutes. He tried to throw this impossible pass where he was sideways, parallel to the ground, and a back.
Oh, he tried to throw a one-hander.
Yeah.
And they blamed the prop, the front rower. This is probably why you're pissed off, because the front rower's fault. He's got no hands. The pass was impossible.
Look,
I remember
those
that.
little things, like first test match, and I actually screamed out to the TV, disrespect. Like they
Rain Man screamed to the TV.
No, I was like,
What are you, French? Disrespecting us.
No, I was like, respect the Fijians, like respect the game itself and what you're trying to achieve, and that is don't throw that 50-50 shit. Wingers, hold on to the ball. Don't
Oh
kick
my
it.
God, I'm glad you said that.
Why are you
that
kicking
was
the
pissing
fucking
me
ball
off.
away? Like every single time, we never saw the Wallabies actually build pressure. So I think, look, they would be incredibly frustrated. Please don't get me wrong. And that's actually a good thing when you come out of a game like that frustrated, because you know you got more in you. 12 months ago, they would have been like, oh, yes, we won. Like, dude, there's a massive difference in mindset here when we're talking about, like, and that's a huge improvement, like we saw from 12 months earlier to even 12 months before that as well. So we're seeing this wonderful progression of this nucleus of players that we're now starting to see. Do you know this is the first time since 2015 there wasn't a debutant playing for the Wallabies? So 10 years it's taken us to pick the same team.
No, to be fair, though, JP, everyone that played rugby in Australia got a cap last year.
It was 17, correct. No. But since 2015, mate, 10 years. So we've had a debutant in the first test of each year for the last decade. This is the first time we've chosen a side where we didn't have a debutant, because the squad that was made up was a lot of it, like majority of them were incumbents, right? They were on the tours last year, as well as blooded through that sort of their test debut last year. So, look, frustration, yes, but I think a lot of key things like hit and stick in defence. Don't kick away easy possession or give away easy possession. You tighten those two things up, mate, you're playing test match footy then, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. I just think probably if you're going to dissect it, I'm really glad you brought up the kicking. Like, I thought they worked their way through what was a very good Fijian defence, and not something they're actually ever incredibly famous for, the Fijians. Look, they can ball in hand, they're next level, but they can concede easy points defensively, but they were really solid. So Australia had to work it out, how to get the ball into the outside channels, and when they did, particularly to both wingers, and they had space to run, their first option looked like every time just to kick it over the top into space, and that's speculative. That's 50-50. You know, you're making line breaks. You're in behind. You've got one-on-ones. Even if you T-bone and take contact, you've got the opposition on the back foot, and they just kicked it away so many times. So I'm sure Joe Schmidt wouldn't be happy about that, because it's worth doing and making the fullback think, oh my God, he's going to, but then don't do it every time because they're just reading it too easy. So that would be one area that they probably weren't happy with. But other guys, JP, that got opportunities, like you'll always have good input for us in the front five, which I'd be interested to hear about and how you thought that performance was. Didn't dominate at the scrum time.
No.
And then just secondly, and I'm not saying this just to take the piss, but Joseph Su'ali, he started at centre, which you prefer him to be in, and Tom Wright at fullback. But Tom Wright can play wing, can't he?
No, he can. But look,
and then Eki Tau, who you're a big fan of,
massive,
played 12.
Yeah,
those guys didn't really function in that game. Like, I can't remember Tom Wright making a line break. Su'ali didn't make a line break. Eki Tau was okay, but
no. Look, Tom Wright also threw 2 forward passes, right, for tries. So look, we those two passes, there's 14 points. Joseph Su'ali at 13. I thought a couple of times. He was always about catch pass, right? He pretty much offloaded as soon as he touched it. I would love to have seen him just take the line on a couple of times. But I thought their hands in phase, when we got really good shape, when we kept going around the fucking corner, like this bullshit of going 11 pattern, mate, I hate it. I hate it. There were so many times when if we got around the corner.
When you go what pattern?
11 pattern. So basically you got one side, 1-1, you come back to the left, you come back to the right, you come back to the left, you come back to the right. Rather than just going around the corner and going to
pulling the defence.
And going to the extremities. Like if you go around the corner, right? And you get quick phase ball off that first phase, then you get around that second phase, you get quick ball ruck, then again, you literally have the winger and fullback, mate. But we kept coming back to where Fijians' defence, we didn't make them work around the corner. I screamed this, black and blue
Oh my God,
last
he's-
year, right?
poor
Get
TV.
around the corner, mate. My
Disrespect.
God. Like, that too. I thought our hands though. I thought our hands at times were super sharp, man.
Yeah, well-
Particularly Fraser McWright's try, right? Like with that ball, that depth
Yep.
was excellent.
Yep.
I thought Tate McDermott. Thank God we got a running half. Like, look, nothing against Jake Gordon or Nick White. Love those two guys, and I think they bring a bit of stability when they come on. But Tate McDermott showed exactly why he's going to be world class. I love the way that he comes into a ruck. I haven't seen a 9 run like this for a long time in Australia, where he can actually see the options beforehand, and just as little darts and as like taking that opportunity, like it shrinks all the defense in. Like you have to be really solid at that 1-2 pillar, right, in defense.
Yeah.
If you've got a running 9, so I thought that was incredibly huge positives. Look, again, going back, they would have been incredibly. They put themselves under a lot of pressure a lot of times with poor options. But again, man, first test, right? They want to run it. They want to have a crack. But I thought those two were the big things. Look, going back to the tight 5. Yeah, look, Jeremy Williams probably had a game to forget. He got penalised 3 times in a row in the second half, particularly for, just really silly ones like being offside. Like, that shits me. Like, when players are penalised for offside, like, that's just lazy to me, right? Like Griggs, man, back in the day, you're an offside. My God, he would chase you for like 20 meters and like give it to you, like because it's a moment of disrespect.
I was just thinking, like,
disrespect.
I was thinking the Jeremy Paul household. And
I was screaming.
I was going to say, how many
screaming.
times, if you're sitting on the couch watching, how much time did you actually spend on the couch?
Not a lot.
You're up for a few instances just yelling at
Not
the
a lot,
TV.
mate. No, my kids too. Like, especially the babies. When I was screaming. Actually, the 7-month-old started bawling, like, because I screamed at the TV. Disrespect! Stop disrespecting the Fijians. And to me it was because at times we just didn't if it was the British and Irish Lions Test match, right? Like, you would take points or you would.
And they did turn down quite a lot of points, though.
They did. They turned down every point available.
And very kickable. So let's
Very
face
kickable.
it, when you dissect that game,
Yeah.
and do you know what I mean?
Oh, we're
'Cause
20
you're
21
trying to get a
28
certain
points.
amount out of it, aren't
Yeah.
you?
Yep.
You're trying to find things out. So you got to kind of look at it. They took a real positive attitude. And I'm saying bankable.
Yep.
Maybe 12 points. They
Yep.
turned down and went for touch.
Easy.
Didn't get, which is annoying. Didn't get a lot of change out of any of that. Maybe
No, they did the
one
first
rolling
try,
ball.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they did the
But
fir-
but in
correct.
general, their mindset is we're trying to work our way through our attack, know what we've got when we're
Yeah.
close to more line. But in a proper test, like against the Lions, is the point I'm trying to make. They would have accumulated those 12 points from pressure.
You're going to take those points.
Yeah.
Same with the All Blacks, mate. Like the French, they took points every single time. All Blacks went for the sideline. That's
Yeah.
what you're going to do in the first test, right? You're going to
Yeah.
do that. Look, the other things I think they can work on is depth from 9. Like, when you have a running 9 as well, you've got to make sure you don't flatten up too much on the 9, right? Like, I must have seen probably about half a dozen times where players stopped and had to get back. Simply because Tate had either was about to go for a run, or the timing was off. So I think with
So
2 forward,
people anticipating that he might run, it got flat, but then he hasn't run.
Correct.
So
they've flattened up and now
They're
they're
not in a
in front of the
position to-
pass.
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Correct. So depth issues a little bit, but once they actually when they were good, like in terms of our shape, like those, because everyone's playing that double blocker, right? Like everyone's doing that double blocker. First person off the ruck has either left or right options, which you mentioned before with
Yep.
Harry Wilson being inside. He made
Yeah.
a bit of ground, bit of pay with that.
He punches through well, man.
Yeah, but that first guy's always looking to dish off underneath, right, to the 10. And then you're having your fullback coming into that second blocker run. And the Wallabies did that a number of times. And if they could have just got that one more pass out, because I believe that's where the edge is, right around that 13 channel. Like, I think we got 2 edges on where the 10 is and then where that 13 and 11 is on the outside. And we almost got to that second edge, I believe, so many times.
It'll look
We just got
different.
shut down.
It'll look different with Valentini there, though, won't it?
Oh, hugely. Yeah. Look, that was a massive loss. Look,
Yeah.
I thought, Langy Gleeson.
If you
I
go
thought-
Harry Wilson, Valentini, and
Yeah.
Mick Wright, then that attack shape looks a lot different.
100%.
Punching,
Look, and the
penetrating,
last thing I think they'll work on is their body height. Like, I think their body height into contact was a little bit upright. Like, if you're going up against massive forward pack, like I remember Eddie Jones in one training session. I remember in '98. Remember one player, Troy Jacques, he was like running,
I remember Troy Jacques.
like,
Yeah.
Troy Jacques,
Yeah.
he was running the ball and he was running up too upright, and then you hear Beaver yelling out from the sideline, "Drop your fucking body height, I'd snap you in half." Like the coach is like yelling from the sideline. And it was like, but it was a good reminder of like, you can't always run upright, right? And I thought a number of times we got caught too high, like as the ball carrier.
Noah Lolesio, stretch it off. What is the latest on his injury? Because he is a pivotal player for the Wallabies.
Yeah, look, haven't heard anything that will confirm that he's like, it looked like concussion, but didn't look good, and he got stretchered off. You know, again, like if there's an accumulation of head knocks, and we've seen this with the 10's Tom Liner as well, so surely that has to put a massive like dark circle around our 10's at the moment.
Okay, well, let's talk about your 10 options.
Mate, they look.
Well, Donaldson came on at the weekend. What do you think? How do you think he controlled the game from when he came on?
Yeah, look, I think Donaldson is incredibly solid. Look, I think he's got a wonderful kicking game. Look, he's one of the 10's I've thought over the last 12 months has actually decided, like when he gets the ball, what I have seen a distinctive change is he will run rather than, it's always his first option as a younger player was to kick. It always gives me the shits with 10's, man. If your first option is to kick every time, don't want you. Like, because you're not looking to attack. You should have an attacking mindset every single time. That's because I got to play with Stephen Larkham for 11 years. So
Greedy.
That was so greedy. I'm so greedy because he was always about attacking first, right? Before. And look, you have to play the territorial game. You do have to kick. That's part of rugby union. But what I have seen in a great improvement with Donaldson has been his ability to like look at situations first and look to run rather than just instantly kicking. He came on also too when the team was under huge amounts of pressure, and look, to the forwards' credit, where you've always bagged the shit out of us, like they stood up and actually scored that winning try, which was absolutely fantastic from a Wallabies perspective. But yeah, I didn't think he lit the world on fire, but he was solid.
Yeah, it must obviously make them think about, you know, if this happens to us, do we have the cover? And this is exactly what we were talking about, Andy, you know, all season, and have been talking about all season, was, you know, it's Joe Schmidt looking at what someone like Rabs can offer. And the thing with having Rabs in the Wallabies is his preferred jersey's 10, and he'll play that incredibly well. And he's super reliable. You know, if you're ever going to have a guy step up, take a kick, it's James O'Connor.
The finisher.
Exactly. But by having a guy like that with that versatility on the bench, like a Tava Naiwai who can play from 12 to 15, all of a sudden you're not such in panic mode when a guy goes off after 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So this, again, it's like, why have the Wallabies not recognised that when they've got, like, Dungunu came on and he played well coming on as he did, but he wasn't playing in a position he's familiar with.
No, look, that was a big surprise.
So it's like, well...
But that was the question.
And at one point you had Soilii at first receiver.
Yeah.
No, correct. No, that was always the big question, right? Who's going to play 12 if 12 go? When Len Ikitel came off, I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." I don't understand why Rabs isn't in the 23.
No, exactly.
I don't, man.
I think you just got to think about it. And,
I don't.
and to me, that was a classic example at the weekend for both sides of, I'm all for the ability off the bench for having to have players play those multiple positions, even though they've got one specialist jersey that they are very assured in. And that's Rabs. Rabs plays 10. He's a great 10, world-class 10. But he can, if he has to, play 12, 13, 14 fullback. You know, so having that advantage on your bench, you know, it's like the Springboks with their bomb squad, you know. Like they cater for everything. Like bringing Estazen off the week. Did you see that first test that they played? You know, like against the Barbarians?
Oh,
Estazen came on the flank.
yes. No, I know.
He's a centre.
No, I know. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And Quacker Smith can play on the wing. So they know, should something fucking go wrong,
Yeah.
we know where we can put these players. And I just think the one for the Wallabies with bringing Rabs in, it caters for a lot of problems across the entire back line, apart from halfback.
Yeah. But that's your risk matrix, right? Like you look at the risk and you go,
Oh, here we go, Rain Man.
Rain Man's...
He's going to give
All
us
right,
a
mate.
risk, mate.
We're going into the Matrix. Fuck those movies. I love them, but I couldn't understand them. Can you explain them to me, please, Rain Man? No.
that's your
Not,
risk.
in, not in binary language, please.
No, but that's your risk matrix. And what I love about Rassie Erasmus is his whole risk matrix goes out the window. He doesn't pick a reserve bench for the risk of losing this player or losing this player. I've got a player that will cover there just in case.
I've got a plan.
But my plan is like everything will go well and this is what I'm going to do in the 50th minute, right? Whereas everyone else in world rugby seems to react to the risk and go, oh yeah, but what happens if this player goes down? I need this. Like, yes, that is what that is what can happen, but I just love the I suppose the half like full type of response from Rassie Erasmus where he goes, no, I'm not going to worry about what if.
If that happens, I'll deal with it.
I'll deal with it. Correct, right? Like, and I think every coach around the world can take a leaf out of Rassie's book, man, and go, you know what, I'm going to pick this bench that if everything goes right for the 50th minute, they're going to come on and they're going to destroy that team and give us exactly what we need from the 50th minute. And look, I think the Wallabies did that too. Like the players that did come on, I thought Tom Hooper was outstanding. Like his defense, wow. Actually, the commentators, there was one particular tackle that you could hear. You know when you hear it through the TV
Riffs,
screen,
Mike, or whatever,
the contact, and it was like you even heard the commentators go, "Ooh," like this one. So that's what you want, like obviously, like, and it gives you that ability to have a second rower / back row. Yeah, I still wouldn't mind looking at the 6-2 split though.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still
That's a whole
big
nother
fan.
conversation.
That is another conversation.
I'm going to say something now that
Here we go.
I think we're going to hear from Joe Smith at some point. I'm going to put my headphones on and say it. Rabs, James O'Connor. Geez, it's good to see you, mate.
Hey, it's good to see you guys too. I miss you.
Oh, we miss you too, Rabs. Hey, the thing that we're really most interested in after what happened at the weekend in the Australian game, and everybody knows that there was an injury in a certain jersey, you look like you're at training.
I am, man. I've been in the wings, staying fit, training every day. You know, you never know when you're gonna get called upon. Hey, there might be an opportunity. So yeah, look, it's the Reds have looked after me, so been training with a few of the guys and a couple of the other guys like Samu Karevi, who's also sort of in that sort of limbo spot where he's staying fit and wants to be a part of it if he gets the call. So yeah, just training here every day and got the field, got the net up for the goal kicking, got a sauna, got a gym. You know, what else do you need?
Well, you are 2025 Super Rugby champion this year, Rabs. What about this Anzac or even the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander and Pacifica game? Is there any chance of getting a call up? Because we have seen the squads and, mate, your name's missing.
Yeah, I was unfortunately I couldn't get insured for the Anzac game. There was chat about possibly being involved in the Reds game, but they got a couple of Wallabies guys back, and I was hoping to be a part of the Anzac game, but a few of us apparently couldn't get insured. So hey, I've just turned 35 2 days ago, so I think that's me out.
No, you don't look at Rabs. You don't look at.
I know, man. I know. Not the greatest timing. I would have loved to have played in that Anzac test, but look, at the end of the day, hey, put my best foot forward and look, staying fit. If they get called into camp, then man, I'll do a job. That's for sure. Well, I'll do my best to do a job.
So, mate, I guess the other massive news, because of you being on the piss for 5 days after the final, we haven't had you back into studio or on the show. So since then, obviously, you have also signed for Leicester. Very exciting news for you, mate, to experience something different again and over there with an old sparring partner in Czech. Yeah,
I think the big reason for that, like, I was as you know, sort of when you get to a certain age, it's like unless you're sort of hungry for something or there's a new opportunity, it's pretty hard to put your body on the line. So I've been watching the Premiership all year, watching Leicester, and I feel like, man, they're a great team. They're a top 4 team. So I just thought going back to England would definitely be testing myself. I feel like I played for London Irish, I played for Sale Sharks, but they didn't possibly get the best version of me. Like I was carrying a little bit of an injury at Sale, and when I was at London Irish, I was, let's just say, I wasn't focused on footy. So I would love to go back to England and, put my best foot forward and really do a job for them.
Rabs, just on the game on the weekend against Fiji, I did see on your little story on your social media that now that's good footy. Like seeing those hands, I think when Jorgensen scored, disallowed try. What did you make of the Wallaby performance on the weekend?
Man, it was a little bit of a mixed bag, to be fair. Like, again, you give Fiji the ball, they're like in the wrong parts of the field, they're dangerous. So you just have to be so accurate with your kicking. Like, you can see what they can do one-on-one. I was really impressed because even before the game, I wasn't 100% sold on Jorgo on the wing. And seeing what he did, I was, really impressed with him. I thought Len and Joseph's sort of combination was quite nice when they got their hands on the ball. And even I thought Harry played quite well. That even scoring that last try, him getting that ball down was pretty impressive. It's a good starting point, but I feel like the group's got still a lot more in them. But again, they're a hard, as you know, man, they're a hard opponent because they're just so unpredictable. It's almost like you're trying to play territory and chess with them, but they'll run it from anywhere. They've got the 7 style and they're just powerful and fast. So we got the win. That's all that matters, really.
Rabs, I was thinking about what Waz's wise words of wisdom would have been before playing the Fijians, but regardless of that, because we might get to hear his wise words of wisdom about playing the Lions. So speaking of the Lions, mate, you're obviously in Australia now. You've seen their performances so far. What do you make of them?
I think they're still finding their feet as well. Like, to be fair, like the scores are blown out quite a bit. But if I'm watching even those first 2 games, the Force and the Reds game, 40 minutes into that game, the Aussies were well within reach. And then I felt like the game sort of turned. Like, hey, when Finn and the guys sort of really put the pressure on, geez, they were playing some good footy, some nice footy. And you saw like the difference of having roaming wingers. Like when Mac Hansen was on there and James Lowe, you just saw their ability to move the ball to all parts of the field. So I think it's just going to come down to, like we've said before, combinations. So I'm really excited to see who he actually sticks with. And even the fact that, Farrell's coming over now as well. I think that's going to be an interesting conversation there. But in terms of, they're going to be good. Once they settle on their exact team, I feel like they're going to go to another level. But I feel like we're there and roundabout. So if we can get our combinations firing as well, I think it's going to be a great contest.
You and I were in studio and I made the bold statement that I almost guarantee that we'll see Owen Farrell at some stage on this tour. And you kind of nodded and agreed. And we both kind of thought we wouldn't be surprised. There's been a lot of fallout about that selection because you're bringing in a 10, sort of 12 to replace an outside back. How have you seen that played out, and why would they do that?
I just think he knows how to win. Like, think how many premierships and titles and games he's won on the back. Like, he's a good defender. He knows how to control a game, and I feel like he's a very different 10 to the other guys as well. He can obviously play 12, and he's a genuine ball player and a great kicking option. So, like, you've Elliot Daly, obviously, he's a good hybrid player, but he's got a great left foot, an incredible kicking game. So I think they've brought Farrell in for possibly that reason. Hey, comes on the field, whether he's on the bench or whatnot, he can pin corners better than anyone else. He's an 80-90% goal kicker. He's been there, done that, and you can just tell he loves the contest. So I think it's a good replacement. And the fact that he plays so differently to, like a Finn Russell and even like a Marcus Smith, they're very different players, so they're going to be hard to work out. Whether you start with one and then, have a bomb squad come on in that second half, that really is just there to increase territory or increase power or however he sees it happening. But I think it's a good move.
Look, personally for me, Owen Farrell is one of those players. He's like a George Gregan. Like, he lifts standards.
He delivers.
He's so professional and so one of those players that's just so much respected throughout the team. So when he looks at you and gives you those evil eyes, then you're gonna snap out of it. So, but when you look at this line side, just to finish off, mate, like I've got I think Alex Mitchell has put his hand up for 9. I think Finn Russell is 10. James Lowe, I think, has cemented a wing spot. Obviously, Atojo is captain. He has to start. Anyone else you think has actually put their hand up and will be starting this first test?
That is a great question. I'm gonna I honestly reckon like we're talking about combinations. I would love to see Tui Pilotu get a little crack there. I feel like everyone knows what Bundy can do, but I don't feel like you can play them both as a 12-13. Whereas Hugh Jones, I reckon you could pop him in there and they'd have more of, I guess, a Scottish feel with that sort of 10, 12, 13. And then you could almost, have Mac and Joe on the wings there. And then at fullback, that's sort of, I guess, still pretty open at the moment. But in terms of who stood out, I think you're pretty accurate there. Obviously, Atojo is going to be in there. Sheenan. But yeah, other than that, I think they're still up for grabs.
Just quickly before we let you go, and it'll be an amazing little outro from Andy because he's got it all in front of us. You can probably picture it. He's got his monitor set up in front to segue us out. But I just wanted to ask you one more question. Obviously, Man Love, and JP's got Man Love of Joseph Suali'i and Mick Wright as well, Fraser. And Andy's, yeah, exactly. Well, he's got 2 now. You know what he's like, though. Some things just don't change, do they? But anyway, Andy's
Rain Man.
Andy's Man Love is Kinghorn. Any thoughts on him as a player? Because Andy's obviously he's got this infatuation with him.
I rate him, mate. I would love him to be playing fullback. I think he'd add a great element. Obviously, he's almost like a hybrid 10. Big kicking game, tall, fast. I think he would almost suit that, Farrell's sort of way of swinging and trapping teams on blind sides. I would definitely love to see him get a go there. I'm sort of glad possibly he isn't going to.
You love him. He loves him as well.
Oh, man, it's just good footy. I've been watching all the games and I'm like, it's been cool to see, even, you got so many different ways of playing the game. And I feel like as well, the Lions have gone at it with different sort of tactics. They've gone, their Irish route, then they've played a little bit more territory. You even see, especially against the Reds, how they squeezed them in that last sort of 30 minutes. They didn't play much footy. It was just all turnover attack, pinning corners, and then just playing on top of that. So it's been, good footy to watch. If you're a spectator, and that's what I've been doing, it's been a cool series so far. So I'm keen to see, when they put their best team out and we put our best team out, it's going to be a good little battle there for sure.
Mate, and just to finish off, mate, look, we know Joe Smith's a massive, massive fan of the good, the bad, the Rugby Australia and New Zealand. Mate, just look down the lens. Tell Joe, fucking pick me.
Well, I might try to give him a call after this, but hey, look, if you pick me, I'll do a job for you. I'll go to war for you, brother.
We know you will,
That's all
Rabs.
I can say is, hey, I'll put this body on the line.
Brilliant. Cheers, Rabs. Good luck, mate.
Cheers, Rabs.
Thanks, brother.
Champion.
Legend.
Always a pleasure.
It is now time for Rugby's Best Exchange, brought to you by HSBC, Australia's everyday global account Visa debit card, keeping your finances match fit at home or away with one card and winning exchange rates to keep your money ahead of the game.
Mate, Wanigolo's try. That was exceptional. In between Nick Frost and Alatoa after beating James Slipper, must have stepped 54 times before he beat Tate McDermott, and then a beautiful offload to the 6 to score in the corner. I mean, did that give you like the chills of and remind you of someone like Penny Thau? I remember playing him in
You mean nightmares or chills?
Correct. Do you remember, we played him in the 03 final, right, in the semi-final over in Auckland. And Griggs arguably one of the best cover defenders I've ever played with, right? Like Gregan brought down the Jonah Lomus, brought down everyone.
How many times
right?
did you mention George Gregan in this episode?
Oh, mate, because he's a genius. He's one of the greats. But anyway.
Did you play with him?
I did for 11 years. So Gregs, right, could cover cross anyone. Rupeni Thauthau was the only player that ever made him doubt himself in defence. Only player, because he was like, remember we were talking in the sheds after the semi-final when they dusted us up and then they went and dusted you guys up in the final. And I remember sitting there and he goes, mate, I was covering. I was running my ass off because I thought he was going to outpace me, and then all of a sudden he just went zzz, and he just cut inside. And like Greeks to be stood up was no easy feat, right? Like, so yeah, it was an incredible moment. Like, who doesn't love a flying Fijian? Like, he was incredible.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Wanigolo's effort to create something out of nothing, and it's typical Fijian fashion, isn't it? Like, at the end of the day, they bumbled the ball across the back line, and it goes behind the receiver.
That's
and
right.
Wanigolo's there, and it's like, right, he just scoops it up.
Yep.
And it's like he's playing in the backyard of his house.
Yes.
And he literally just makes a line break, beats a couple of defenders. And then from there you're thinking, because then he gets into his work. Speed, stepping, beating defenders. I think he absolutely snapped the ankles of Tate McDermott. And then the offload as well, because I was thinking he can get there. That was incredible. And when you think about the way the Fijians play, yeah, you're absolutely right. Rupeni Thauthau Mbuka, like I feel George's sympathy because I was a covering defender as well.
Yeah, same position,
of
right?
the highest quality. And did you call him the best in the world? Or?
No, I did, mate.
That's when I looked across at Andy. I'm going, I'm sitting right here, mate.
Sorry, Marshy.
I remember a game in Christchurch when we were playing the Blues, and they went on to win that final later on. We were playing them in the round robin. The famous one with Carlos gives the crowd.
The one who scores in the corner.
But before that, I think Rupeni scored 2 tries that day, and I was covering him on the blind side, and the halfback stupidly passed him the ball and it was just me standing there as a defender, and he only had half a metre to move him. And I thought he's going to step me on the inside here because he's otherwise you'll go, I'll bundle him into touch. So he just squared me up, and in that half a metre, he gassed me. And there's this picture of me trying to ankle tap him as he's gone past me, and he's literally beaten me in this little 2 square metre block. It was like we were playing our own game. And then I actually turned around, I was lying on the ground, and I thought, here's Leon McDonald come across as that last defender, fullback. He skinned him as well and scored. So I was like, didn't feel so bad. And the other, very quickly example was Mike Anthony, who was our All Black trainer, Crusader trainer.
Had him for Gloucester.
Yeah, and he was at Gloucester.
Yeah.
At the
Hated
time.
me.
And I was playing for Ospreys, yeah, you said. Because, mate. he wouldn't have liked JP wandering in there eating lollies, bloody chewing away and not spending 3 hours in the gym, Motsy. But anyway, I remember talking to him, and I was playing for Ospreys at the time, and he said, we've got whoever Rupeni was playing for at that time, he was playing in France. It might have been Clermont. And he said, they've got Rupeni playing this weekend. It was either a quarterfinal or whatever it was. And I said, yeah, because obviously we knew him from New Zealand. And he said, yeah, and this is Gloucester against Clermont. And he said, thing is though, mate, they've had to go find him in Fiji. They haven't been able to track him down. He went back. He went back for a sabbatical or a little break.
Yeah.
And then went MIA for like 2 months. So the French had to send this rogue guy over to Fiji, and they found him somewhere in some village drinking kava.
Oh my God.
And Motsy said to me, this is his exact words. He said, "Mate, he is fat.
He's massive."
He said he has put on, I reckon, 20 kgs in that 6 weeks we haven't been able to find him.
Easy.
And he said, the thing is, we know that he's coming and what he's been doing in France, but he said he's been away for that amount of time. And he said, but all our players are laughing at the size of him. And they're basically saying, look at him, big fat winger, used to be unbelievable. He scored 3 tries. And they lost. Do you know what I mean? It's just like typical
just
Fijian
remarkable.
flair. Doesn't matter what you look like, what you can do. they can still run quick, and he
Yeah.
could still run quick, and he hurt them big time for underestimating them.
That is a wrap on today's Rugby's Best Exchange. Thanks to HSBC Australia and the Everyday Global Account Visa Debit Card. Score some wins with your money with one account and multiple currencies, so you're good to go. Let's look ahead to the games coming up this week because we don't have much time. Tomorrow, Brumbies are in action.
This was their probably staunchest challenge before a test match.
Absolutely, man. Chilling.
You know, the Brumbies are the benchmark team in Australian rugby, and
this game will be tighter than that.
which you remind us of every week.
Well, they won
Brumbies
last time.
greatest Super Rugby.
They won 12 years ago.
Yeah. So, as a rugby fan, this is going to be an interesting game. Really is. The Wallabies haven't released a massive amount of players for this game.
It's hard to say, Marshy, because what we've seen, like with the Reds and with the Force, right, in particular, they were released very, very late, like, 1 or 2 days just before kickoff. So in terms of releasing Brumby players...
Who would you like to see play that you think
I'd
is
like
kind
to
of
see
battling
Corey
for a
Toole.
test place?
I'd like to see
Yeah?
Corey Toole go back.
Yep.
Definitely want to see him. Tom Hooper go back. I just feel that even when we saw the Wallabies play against Fiji, like, you can always tell by their jerseys, right? Like how humid it is or how hot it is because the sweat. I felt that players were a little underdone as well. We've touched on this in the pod a couple of times. We're not talking about like the first test in Brisbane for like at least another week and a half. So, I think if you could
These guys
release,
need some minutes.
made 10 minutes, like, 10 days, like prior to that first test match. So I think obviously not if Rob Valentini, don't release him, give him every chance with his calf because he's that important. Definitely Tom Hooper. Wouldn't release Leniki Tau. Definitely Corey Toole. That's probably the only couple of players I'll release. But look, it's it's going to be like -1, -2 down in Canberra. They didn't rate it last time. The Brumbies just, all they did, man, was tackle and just get real nasty. Like,
Wet the
that's all
pitch.
they did.
Water the pitch.
What are the pitch? What about that bullshit?
Yeah, that's
like
correct.
pitch tampering. Like what?
Yeah.
Mate, has anyone not seen the weather? Like, it actually hailed at my house last night. Like, it was 3 different occasions. Like, the weather in Australia has been absolutely nuts.
What did we think of the Anzac squad, the Australia-New Zealand invitational team?
Oh, loving the All Black players or the New Zealand players that have been released, not so much the Australian players. Like, I thought we could have quite easily have released some really top players that are pushing for test spots. Like, I don't feel that we've done that. I don't think we've done that across all Super Rugby sides. In this,
I'm going to be honest, I think it's a bit disappointing. I think it's
me
disappointing. Like, I
too.
think the Super Rugby teams have been disappointing. Like, they've put up fights, but they haven't had a lot of game time, and then there's been 50-point score lines. I think Waratahs saved that a little bit. I think the Australia and New Zealand invitational team, we could have made an amazing Anzac team, but of course there's insurance things which we've worked out that some players can't get insured to go out there and play. But it's a big missed opportunity, I reckon.
No, but the same thing happened in South Africa 4 years ago, mate. Like, they averaged 50-point blowouts.
Right.
Like, same thing. Because you're talking about the best of the best in between 4 teams, right? Like England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland.
Because a lot of those players and
class.
lines have got more test caps.
Correct.
And some of these Super Rugby teams have got
Super
caps.
Rugby caps, correct, mate, correct. And the same blowouts happened in South Africa 4 years ago. The average differential in points was over 50. I think it was 56.
Oh, so the Wallabies are going to win this.
No. Well,
Wallabies
not
are teed up.
necessarily that has a reflection in terms of the test, but it just shows like you're not going to release your best players. Like, because you look at these blowouts, right? Like, and you go, are they actually really a chance if they don't release their Wallaby players?
I'm going to have a look at this side because I just need to figure out. I actually think they'll put a good side out there. I actually think you
The
might
Brumbies.
No,
No,
the Australia-New Zealand.
Australia-New Zealand Anzac game. I actually think you might find that they will. Like,
Yeah, from a New Zealand point of view, yes, we've got some really, really good players. But I'm sorry, a lot of the Australian players are all players that just played in their Super Rugby sides.
Tane
Like,
Ahmed's going to be your 10.
yes.
I don't see any other 10 in there.
No,
I see no
Lachlan
Wallaby
McLaughlin
players.
Phillips is there, but you got.
No, but no Wallaby players have been released.
Like,
this is the issue.
Yeah, I know.
thought it
Yeah,
was-
I know what you're trying to. I know what you're trying to say, but in terms of a content, like you got Siru Uru there, Lachlan McLaughlin-Phillips.
Again, all played against
Darby
the Lions
Lancaster. I like, the Tane Edmed. But look, if you think about like David Harvey being in the mix, Folau Fakatava's there, Sean Stevenson's there, AJ Lamb is there.
Again, New Zealand
Marika Korobetti.
Yes.
And then you throw the likes of Jock Campbell, Joe Bryle into the mix.
Oh, now we're talking.
No, but
now we're talking.
again, all played against
Paying
the Lions.
Amosa, Salakai Lotto.
All played against the Lions.
I know they've played against the Lions, but what we're talking about is in terms of a contest. When you combine them with those New Zealand players, Jeffrey Tuonga Allen, Kalani Thomas as a reserve 9. I mentioned Fakatava. I actually think it's quite a good side.
We don't have enough time to preview the All Blacks v France.
Who cares about that?
France are going to take 50 anyway, aren't they? They're going to take 50. But we would like to thank you all very much for watching and listening on whatever platform you're on. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We do read the comments and we do take them on board, especially the French ones ripping into Marshy. So make sure you enjoy your rugby this week and we'll be back again next Tuesday.